So one of the streams of this conference has been building the profession. And so I thought just to get started, we could do a little group discussion. I have 5 discussion questions, so if you want to move around to wherever you want to discuss that, there'll be one that won't get discussed, or you can discuss a couple, it doesn't matter. The first one is, what does professionalization of the literacy field mean to you? The second one is, what are the benefits to professionalization? And we can look at this in 2 ways, to the learner and to the practitioner. Number 3 is, what will or can change as a result of professionalization? Number 4 is, what standards or competencies would the practitioner need? And the last one is, who should be considered and why or why not? So that's looking at volunteers, practitioners, and so on. So what I thought is that we could do, and I put up the questions around the room just in case you can't see the front that well. I thought what we could do is just introduce yourselves around the table and then talk about it for a few minutes, and then we'll report back. If you want to join in with another table, that's fine. So does anyone have one that's burning that they really want to talk about, or does it matter? So we could do 1, 2, 3, and 4, or whatever. Let me see, what ones are most important? I think number 5 is important from my perspective of what you think. So,
no, not at all.
And at the last table, do you guys want to do number 5?
Sure.
Who should be considered or who shouldn't? And I'd like to have number 2 done about the benefits. Who wants to do number 2?
Are we doing number 2?
Sure, you want to?
Okay.
Yeah. And I guess to follow up on that whole conversation, I just wanted to let you know that at Literacy Nova Scotia, we have a real fundamental belief that it's all about the adult learner, and so that they have a right to quality education, and therefore they have an expectation of well-trained practitioners. So when they walk through the door, there should be someone there skilled and trained in order to meet their needs. So I think that's where we're coming from for professionalization. So in Nova Scotia, I wasn't around back in 1989, but I've been told that it was the first training program in Canada. That's what the department told me. And it was called the Nova Scotia Tutor and Instructor Training and Certification Program. And it was upgraded in 2000, and typically it has been delivered over 10 weeks, 3 hours a week. There's different trainers, so some trainers do a different model. It could be over a couple weekends and that sort of thing, but typically it's 30 hours. And since 2000, my notes have that 700 tutors have participated. When the department, which is like the ministry, it's the Department of used to be Education that developed this, and now it's the Department of Labor Workforce Management or Development. They tend to always use the word tutor, but the intended audience isn't just tutors. It's community-based volunteer tutors, tutor coordinators, credentialed teachers without experience in adult literacy who teach in the adult learning program. So since 2000, their statistics said that only 700 participated, and that's about half of the people working in literacy. And there were all sorts of reasons for that. There were access issues, administrative challenges, the curriculum was outdated. And then just for community-based programs themselves, there's real isolation, there's staff turnover, there's funding, and the learner is a different learner who comes today than came 10 years ago. So there's always a changing need of the expectations and the level of expertise required to meet their needs. So we partnered with the department, NULD, with the Nova Scotia Community College, and with the Provincial Library to come up with a new training, something that would be accessible. It's funded through OLA's. It started in August 2008 and will finish in January of this year. Oops, I'm going fast here. And the key feature of this project are the varied media that is used in delivery. So there's mainly the Moodle platform. We use online discussion, chat, Skype, Illuminate, voice threads. There's group work, independent work, and there's some face-to-face workshops as well. There's podcasts, videos, all sorts of different things. So the I don't know why that does that. There. The objectives of, that's still not it. There we go. The objectives of the project were that learners would have access to well-trained practitioners, that practitioners would have access to getting that training, and that the community-based organizations could deliver effective programming because they had the trained people to do that. So, there we go. So there are 5 phases. We're in the last phase, the implementation phase. The final product of this is that we want it to be sustainable. So the funding in the project was just to develop it, to pilot it, and now we need to get funding to be able to offer it. So we've just submitted a proposal to the Department of Labor and Workforce Development, who offered the original training. They're very dedicated to having the training. So we haven't had approval yet, but it's looking good. So the final result is the Nova Scotia Practitioner Training and Certification Program. Lovely logo. I put some, so there's also a handout on your table, should be. Does everyone have one? It just describes the different goals of the project or program, the format, the description. So the goals are that you would recognize your own strengths and that you would identify where you needed more training and develop those skills. You make connections with other practitioners, both in your own community and across the province. Broaden knowledge of NASAL. That's in Nova Scotia. We have the Nova Scotia School of Adult Learning. It has kind of 3 partners. There's community-based, there's the adult high school, and there's the community college are all involved in that. So in Nova Scotia, it's important to know who the other players are, what the curriculum is, what the resources are. And also in the training, you would learn specific teaching techniques and strategies. You would have a better understanding of the role of a literacy practitioner. And whenever I say practitioner, I'm referring to whoever is doing the teaching. So it could be a one-on-one volunteer, it could be a classroom instructor. It doesn't matter if they're paid or if they're not. It's who's doing the teaching. And you would also experience a model of best practices. So we have 9 modules altogether plus an orientation. In order to get certification, you need to do 6. There are 3 that are mandatory. The first one is Literacy, Adult Learners, and You. That tells all about adult literacy, your role as a practitioner, who the adult learner is, and their characteristics. That would be recommended to be the first module you take. If you're an experienced practitioner coming in, you don't need to take that module because you've got the experience and understanding already. The next one is What's Your Message relating to the adult learner. That's a face-to-face workshop, and it's all about how to relate to the learner. So the first one, it's very positive about, you know, how great you feel and your role as a practitioner. And the next one is sometimes the more reality of how do you deal with the challenges that arise when you're dealing with adult learners. And the third one is integrating IT skills into your teaching. And that's a big thing for Nova Scotia. We really believe that you should be taking advantage of technology. Learners want to use technology. They're either on Facebook now and they're looking up information. And so it's important that as a practitioner, even if you don't have the skills, you have that enthusiasm to learn new skills, and maybe the learner can help you, so it's a real change in power. So we really believe in that. So those are the 3 mandatory modules that you must take. And then you must take one of the communications modules. There's the beginning reader, which is the basics. There's techniques for teaching reading, writing, and spelling, and communications, learners in transition. Yeah, sure.
Can you take all 3?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But the minimum required for certification is you take the first 3 plus one of these and then 2 others, but you could take all 9. Yep.
You just said that if you were experienced, you would have to take that first one. Would you get prior learning, acknowledgement or recognition so that that counts as one of your 6?
We looked at prior learning assessment. There's a lot involved in employing something, and the only requirement to get credit for a module is to do the assignment. So in actual fact, it's actually easier just to do the assignment and hand it in and get credit for it. The assignment for the first module is interviewing an adult learner. So if you're already volunteering or teaching, you have access to a learner easily and you can interview them or just write up, you know, something that shows that you understand that. The training is very flexible, and we want to meet the practitioner's needs as well. So if the assignment doesn't suit you, then you just come to the facilitator and say, I would prefer to do this to meet those. Sure.
So who monitors then the assignments or looks at them, or, you know, like, how does that work?
Yeah, there is a facilitator. It's not a self-study online course. It is facilitated. Each module is 4 weeks long, and so the facilitator starts off, there's discussions, there's activities and so on each week, and the assignment is always due in the 3rd week, and so they would post it. Part of the assignment also is that you do your assignment, you post it, and you have to comment on 3 other assignments, so you're learning how to mark for confidence and these other sorts of teaching things. And people like to have feedback, and you learn a lot from the other participants. It's not really, the facilitator isn't the expert, really. You're learning from everyone. Yep.
You said Illuminate is available. Is that available for them, the students to work together while they're going through this course as a discussion group, or no? Just for teaching purposes?
I would say just for teaching purposes, only because we don't have the license for it. It's through the provincial library, so we set up meeting times. But on the Moodle, there is a chat so that you can go in and chat. People use Skype. A lot of them use Skype because they use it within the group and also with learners. Being in Nova Scotia, sometimes in very rural areas, there could be a volunteer here and your tutor is, or your learner is way far away. So people are coming up with technology of how to tutor online. So they're using Skype and they're using different things. There's another program, I think it's called Dim. It's like Illuminate. And then you take any other 2 modules. So there's another 2 math modules. There's a learning challenges module. And we talked about what should be mandatory. And some of us thought the learning challenges should be mandatory. But we figure if people are interested, they're going to take it anyways. And there's a lot in the other modules as well. Okay, so I'm not going to go through this in depth because you have the handout that talks about this, but I will answer any questions as I go along or if I think of anything that needs to be added. So this first one, it's getting started online. There's a whole manual for it. It would be offered a week before any online modules are taken. It could be offered as a face-to-face in a computer lab, or it could be a self-study, but it's facilitated. It takes a week to do, or it's up for a week. If you are used to using email and that sort of thing, it might take you an hour just to learn how to maneuver around the site or navigate around the site, how to post messages, that sort of thing. And if you have no experience with that, it would probably take you a couple hours before you got familiar with the site and knew how to respond to posts. So the second one, I think I told you about that enough. It's meeting learners and the questions about yourself as a practitioner. The second one is a one-day workshop. It's a lot of role play and scenarios. The IT, the basics. Kate Nunsuch from BC, some of you may know her, and she did a lot of work on teaching math and numeracy. She wrote all